Hello everyone, this is Surya from Document 360 team and I'm the co-organizer of today's webinar. First of all, thank you for taking the time off your busy schedule and joining us. We got a fantastic session lined up and I'm sure you're eager to dive in. We're honored to have Selvaraaju Murugesan with us, the head of data science at 𝐭𝐚𝐤𝐞𝐚𝐲𝐬. A little background on Selvaraaju is that he holds both master's and PhD degree in computational mathematics from La Trobe University in Australia. With such a strong academic foundation and like with years of experience, Selva is all set to share his expertise on how you can reduce your support ticket inflow by up to 2x with just a knowledge base. So by the end of the session you'll be able to discover how a knowledge base can drive cost saving benefits to your organization, and importantly the role of AI in this process. And as always, we want this session to be interactive as possible, so right after Selva's presentation, we'll be opening the floor for the Q&A. So I encourage you to drop your questions in the Q&A section of your dashboard as we go along. So, this might be your chance to get, expert advice tailored to your needs. So without further ado, Selva, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Surya, and welcome everyone once again for this demo day on reducing support tickets, utilizing a knowledge base as one of the foundational layer. And I'll dive right in. So we will cover something about support tickets, why they are being created, what's the reason, and how they have been addressed. And then later on, we actually go on into what's the role of knowledge base in terms of reducing the support tickets. And then we'll also talk about the future of self-service, where everything is heading towards, given this new paradigm of Gen AI coming into the play. So let's start. So some of you actually in the pre-poll questions mentioned that you have less than 500 as a volume of support tickets per week, which is a majority of the audience here or fall into that bucket. And then what I also found was interesting thing is a lot of people do not have any kind of sophisticated analytics to prove the value proposition to your business executives or your corporate governance in terms of the role of knowledge base it actually plays, or trying to quantify the value of documentation or any kind of documentation out there that's for the customers to actually self-serve, which is very, very interesting thing to know. So let's start with why the support tickets are actually being created. So if you look at from general perspective, so if you have any kind of SaaS product, let's take a SaaS product as an example, and if you're into software as well, if you build any kind of software product, and then if there is any issues with product in terms of whether it is not working properly as intended, or people are trying to configure some of the features in your product, there's always product issues. If you take any kind of hardware industry or manufacturing industry for an example, and you take any hardware defects, if it has any product defects, and if it's not working as intended, or is it creating some kind of a hazard or risk for life, then obviously there is some issues with the product. And that's when we actually call the customer care, or drop an email, or go to social media, or use any kind of means to get to the support so that our issues can be fixed. Then let's take the service industry. If you look at service industry, the service industry is pretty much focused on standard operating procedures, service design, service delivery, all the frontline staffs trying to serve your customers. For them, the support is more about addressing their concerns. If they have any issues with waiting for queue in the medical facility, or trying to get some insurance approvals going on for their refund and things like that. So there's always service concerns. So they always come and raise a support ticket. And the third category is very interesting, where your customers, they don't have issues or any concerns with your services, but instead they seek more information about your company or your product and its related services. And that's a new paradigm. And that's where you'll see a lot of your customers. These three paradigms are where your customers will fall in to generate some kind of a support ticket. So let's take a specific example of product issues. if the product is not working as intended, for example, if you released a software feature where it is not working as mentioned in the documentation, so obviously it could be because of various reasons. It could be a production bug in the product, or even though it is marketed that way, when you use it, it's not meeting some of the requirements as intended. So that's the crux of the issue, uh, raising a support ticket relating to a product issue. The second reason is, I don't know how to use a product feature. You release some sophisticated or complex feature which needs a lot of steps to be followed, and I don't know how to do it. Then obviously I will end up in your documentation. If your documentation is not well up to the accuracy, or it's then obviously I will go and raise a support ticket. Then I have troubleshooting. Let's say I'm trying to troubleshoot some of the problems in the product, and you have a troubleshooting guide. Then obviously if it's not helping me, then obviously I'll go and raise a support ticket. Just remember, support ticket is the last thing that a customer would do to solve a problem. And by the time they reach that stage, the customer is already frustrated. The customer is already not happy with the product or your services and things like that. So they're already in the frustrated mood to when they raise the support ticket. Let's look at the traditional way, or even the modern settings, how the support tickets are being handled. So traditionally, the customer would actually call someone with the phone number, and then there is a support agent waiting for you on the other end, and they listen to all your concerns, whether it's a product concern or a service concern, and they actually refer to three things at their disposal to solve your problem. The first thing is they will refer to an internal knowledge base, which might not be public. It could be a private um, knowledge base. And then the second thing they might refer is call a subject matter expert, who might have more knowledge about the problem that you're actually raising, and then they might provide some solutions. So they liaise with those subject matter experts. And then the other thing is the private docs. These are knowledge silos that exist across different parts of your organization, and they try to access those private docs and then see whether any of the solution provided actually helps the customer. So this is what the support agent would do. In modern days, given the proliferation of the web technology, especially the browser and other things, people usually go to something called support portal of your product, and then they actually log in using the credentials, and then they raise a support ticket so that they can actually track what's the status of it. And the moment they raise something, a support ticket is created on your behalf, and then that is attended by the support agent. Again, the same process is followed by a support agent, either through a phone call or through the web interface. They always use these three things at the disposal to address the customer's problem. Just remember, when they call, the customer wants things to be done very quickly, but the process that I actually put in the diagram actually takes time. Just remember, when you raise support ticket and there's some issues with the product, it's just not one customer raising the ticket. It's multiple customers raising multiple tickets on a same issue. So there's a lot of repeated support tickets coming on your way, and as a business you are probably bombarded with a lot of tickets on the same issues. So that's fine. So you had a lot of repetitive questions, but there are always some complex queries comes in. When they are a lot more power users trying out your product, and they unearth a lot of product issues, and then there's like a lot of complex question is being asked. So in the support operations, again, the Pareto rule applies. 80% of the queries are actually repetitive questions. So sometimes the question asks the same, sometimes different customers ask the same question, or there's a frequency of question being repeated over a period of time as well. So there's a repetitive question. So that's when the most of the support operations is tied in to actually answer that. And then they follow some kind of a protocol and procedures to actually respond to the support tickets in a proper format and the brand guidelines, and then the solution itself. And then you have complex solutions. So obviously when they raise some kind of a tickets that needs a deeper understanding of the problem, or troubleshooting from the developers and then the product managers, obviously the waiting time shoots up for the customers, so that the agent has to respond. They take their own sweet time, diagnose the issue, try to come up with the troubleshooting, and then they pass it on to the customer. So there's a longer waiting time. The other issues in the support center is the peak demand. Sometimes early morning or in the evening or in the afternoon, depending upon the nature of your business, there's always a peak demand where you have to scale your um, agents because there's a lot more people coming in. Okay, and that is also the thing that the support customer support managers, they actually manage on a day-to-day basis. And then the last case is a very peculiar one. It's a sudden demand. You can't actually predict this. This is like a more of a black swan event. There's a sudden demand for something, and then suddenly something peaks up. Okay, it could be because you released a feature or something broke, and then you will see the floodgates open for the support tickets. So these are how the support operations deal with a lot of these questions. And just remember, if you're operating a business, obviously these things call or matter to you, which is put into your excuse me, service level agreement called SLAs. The first thing is you categorize the tickets, the support tickets into three buckets, usually low, medium, and high. And you'll have a SLA. If it's a low priority ticket, you will resolve in X number of days. If it's a medium, X number of days. And then if it's a high priority, you might try to resolve within 24 hours or something, depending upon your business and then depending upon the nature of your product you are actually selling. So the resolution time actually matters. Why? Because that's how the customer um, will feel whether they're actually satisfied with the service and the product that you're actually giving it to them. And then the second is the little more, and the second, third, and the fourth are more of an internal KPIs. The time to respond. This actually measures how quickly a customer support agent can actually take in a support ticket and then go and refer to all this internal resource like subject matter experts, your internal docs, and other kind of resources at their disposal, and then actually respond to the customer with a solution. So that's a very important thing. So time to respond actually matters for a support agent. And also, if you're a call center manager, obviously these internal KPIs are very essential for you to actually measure. And the third important thing is fixing issues. How many of my support ticket response actually fix the customer facing issues? Sometimes you go back and forth. Sometimes the solution you provide might not work, depending upon some of the configuration that the customer enhanced. So you have to go and reopen the tickets. There's a lot of things go back and forth, and then obviously fixing the issues for the customer is also very essential KPI. And the third important thing is internal KPIs. Of course, it will not happen if you have a perfect documentation. So how frequently are you updating your content, and how accurate it is, how timely it is, how reliable is in terms of accuracy. So that actually matters. So that we usually not sit within the customer support team, but sometimes it's actually given to a documentation team. And I've seen in many of the organization where the documentation team is well within the customer support team. So obviously they report to the same kind of a manager. So these are great. So, but these are important in customer outcome metric and then the internal metric, but there are also business metrics. So the business metrics, if you culminate, reduction of support ticket is very crucial for the business. Why? Because it actually brings them an efficiency into their operations, and more importantly, it actually helps them to manage the scale the product and the services. Okay, so the reduction of customer support is a fundamental thing any business executive would be keen on, and that's the essence and the theme of this webinar and then the demo day anyway. And second most important metric is the reduction in the resolution time. How quickly can you address, given the nature of things in this GenAI world, especially things are moving fast and people want things to be done very quickly. So the resolution time, the faster you resolve the customer query, and then the more happier they become. Okay, so it's extremely important. And the third business metric is obviously how, as a business, you are actually empowering your internal customer agents to be a lot more productive. Okay, so that they can actually quickly find the information, respond to them, to the customer to fix the issues. So it's very important that you measure agents productive in terms of time and then effort. So let's take a little bit of a detour in the session two, where These are great, and which is fantastic in terms of understanding the support ticket. But let's look at one of the underrated thing in the reducing the support ticket, which is the importance of knowledge base. So once you have the knowledge base, it's a basically an information repository for your product and the services, where you have how-to articles, product documentation, troubleshooting guides, user manuals, any kind of information actually put into your knowledge base. So it essentially holds the all the information related to your product and services. And most importantly, you want to have this knowledge base as a mixed kind of configuration. When I say mixed kind of configuration, part of this knowledge base is public, part of if you want it to be private. Okay, the reason you want it to be private is some of the internal docs or any kind of things you don't want to put it into the public domain. It could be a business secret or only available to any kind of signed in customers. So you want to keep it as a mixed kind of access mode. Okay, and public knowledge base is great, but if you have a mixed knowledge base in one platform, which is great to have both internal and then the external stakeholders collaborating on one single source of truth. Okay, that's the main important thing, and there is no kind of data silos being produced, because one knowledge base platform can actually holds documentation for different audience or different segments of users you have. One is for customers and one is for your internal stakeholders, which is great. And the third important thing about this knowledge base, the knowledge base is more about trusted contributors. You want to ensure that only the subject matter experts can actually create content, update content. Okay, very important. And the most prominent aspect of this knowledge base is to make sure that it is actually available for self-service. So you actually put it up and your customers can actually come and discover, and then they actually try to solve it, try to solve the problem by themselves. That's the modern kind of tech savvy customers that you have. They no longer want to call anybody over the phone line and then wait and then get things to be resolved. They want to solve the problem by themselves if they can. And as a business, as a product company, you have to empower your customers to self-serve. And let's look at how the customers actually discover the documentation or your knowledge base. The first is your traditional search engines. They go to Google, Bing, or DuckDuckGo, and then they type in the issues. Okay, and you have to make sure that your documentation or your knowledge base site comes on the top of the SEO ranking. Otherwise, it gets missed. So it's very important from the information discovery point of view that all your knowledge base content and your documentation content has to be indexed by all the search engine and has to rank on the top. And that's when your customers find information. Number two, if you are very familiar with, if your customers are very familiar with your products and services, they exactly know the URL of your help site or your support site, and that's a good kind of a way to actually land on your thing. And you need to have a good kind of a taxonomy in terms of what the user wants, and then you need to have a good kind of a categories and subcategories, and then the sequencing of those things, that is that can be easily navigated by the customers to find the information. And you need to have a very good search engine on the top of your documentation site so that they can actually do a performance search. The third important thing, and which we find very interesting in the modern day product and services companies, in-app or in-services help, where the help is available within the app. So you don't have to go to a search engine in a browser or a documentation in a browser. The product and the documentation is one and the same. It's a one entity, and that's where your customers actually find a lot more valuable information to self-serve. And what's great thing about self-service, it gives people a kind of freedom. As a customer, I am independent. I don't need to rely on anybody to actually guide me. I can actually solve the problem myself. It gives them a little bit of a confidence, and that's where most of the modern tech savvy customers are actually moving. In the old paradigm, paradigm where your customers actually wait, and then the company takes its own sweet time and then resolve. But these days, the time is money. They things move very quickly, and then as long as you empower your customers to be independent, to self-serve, they can solve the problem by themselves very easy. Another thing is you no longer want, the customers no longer want to wait. That's the reality now. They just they want to do things very quickly, given the nature of the society we are in, the nature of the society shift that's happening. So everything has to be done very quickly, and that means you need to build a knowledge base, to empower your customers to do things quickly, to make them independent, to make them feel empowered, so that they can actually fix the problem by themselves. You have to build a knowledge base. So a knowledge base obviously gives you comprehensive information about your product and services. Very easy. It's more of an information repository. And the most important thing is the knowledge base have to be available in any device, any format, all the time. When I say any device, it can be a mobile device, which means your knowledge base have to be responsive. When I say any format, sometimes the customers want everything to be in a PDF. Sure. They want to be in a more accessible manner. Sure. And it has to be available in any kind of device all the time. Okay. And most importantly is your knowledge base has to be optimized for content distribution. Remember, I was talking about the search engine, so that can be, your knowledge base can be indexed. So which means your knowledge base need to have some kind of a SEO element in it, so that search engines can come and index the content, make it available for the search engine to actually provide some links when the right kind of keywords are put into the search bar. So that's very important. And obviously you have to build customers, because you have to educate your customers on some of the products and services, and then more importantly the new updates. So it's extremely essential to build a knowledge based solution. So let's look into what are the essential characteristics of a knowledge base to reduce a customer support ticket. First thing is, remember that there's a trusted contributors. They have to create content very quickly. So it's very important that you have an intuitive kind of a interface to create the content very quickly, and then organize the content very quickly. The second aspect is you need to share. It should be very easy to share the content with your customers, be it through an email or be it through some kind of a link, or it could be in a website or anything. So it's very and it has to be reliable. It has to be available 24/7 throughout the year. So the content availability have um, to be rock solid in terms of delivery. And the final piece is the integration tools. So a lot of us actually integrate knowledge base with some kind of support tool, so the support agent can be a lot more productive in terms of finding information, finding solutions for the customer problems. So obviously the knowledge base and the support ticketing platform have to be tightly integrated. Okay. Let me go into a bit of a live demo and show you how we can actually do these kind of things, and then I'll come back to how do you measure the impact. Cool. So, by the way, this is document Steve. The moment you land in, and this is usually the knowledge base portal. This is for the content creation. As you can actually see, it's very pretty neat. And the left side is where you create the categories, basically. This is how your taxonomy works. For example, if it's something about here, I have something about Kia cars. So I give a bit of an introduction about what is Kia and things like that. Let's say I want to create something about Kia's engine. So I click a new article. So I talk about Kia engine, and then I click create. So it's very kind of a easy way to create content. So then I get a bit of an editor where I can actually talk about Kia, Kia engine. Okay, and then I'm going to type Kia engines are state of the art technology. And then I can go, and then I can go ahead and type about emission control and things like that. And then you'll probably get a bunch of um, editing capabilities. Excuse me. If you want it to be H2, you can do that. And this one, you want it to be H3. You can actually do that. And if you want to change the colors and stuff like that, and this is usually um, the things that comes with in most of the editors that you can actually see. So I can actually click publish, and the moment I click publish, and this is very important, the moment you click publish, this information have to be available in the site very quickly. Okay, here I click publish, and then I click to see the knowledge base site. And here, as soon as I publish, this is available to your customers. Anyone who has this URL can come and then find the information very quickly. So that's the beauty of creating content and publishing the content in a very short span of time. So here I talk about time to value. So the moment you have a new knowledge, you have to go and update your knowledge base and make sure that information is easily and quickly disseminated to your customers. And that's what actually done through Document 360. And there are other cool features that you need to have when you create content. Obviously, the most important thing is when you have a lot of content to be reused, you can actually use that. Let's say you have some kind of a template you want to write some kind of process documentation or any kind of troubleshooting guide. You can have your own templates here, and you can actually reuse that to create an article. So I have a process documentation template. There you go. So these are the things that your company can actually create. Uh, think about having a support ticket. If you have a support ticket and you have some kind of troubleshooting guide, you can have a documentation template, and all your trusted contributors can actually go and use this template, update the information, and then publish it. And then we have concept called variables and snippets, where you can actually reuse a paragraph or like a privacy policies or your contact phone numbers and things like that. You can actually convert into variables and snippets and actually use them inside the content creation process. And the next thing we also give is the glossary. For example, you need to have a good glossary in terms of educating your customers on some of the business jargons that we have. And we also have a feature to support that in terms of the business glossary. And this is great. And here I want to show you something on the home page. So this is usually the home page of your documentation site. And using documents, we have something called as a site builder, which you can actually go and customize everything. So you can actually go and customize everything in the header and in the footer sections as well. And you can also customize the hero theme image and things like that. So anything you see here is all customizable, basically. Okay. And when you come back, you can also look at the favicon, all the fun stuff related to your brand guidelines, the primary color, font that you have and stuff like that. So it's pretty nifty to actually use this to customize what kind of documentation landing page you have. So this is our own landing page of docs.documenthistory.com, and as you can actually see, everything here is being customized from the customized site here. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So let's look at how we can actually use some of the other features. So I want to show you something about the in-app kind of help. So we actually support something called widget, which is a knowledge base widget, which you can actually configure. And here I've already created one for you. So imagine that you have a knowledge base, you have your knowledge base site, but right now you do not have to provide a URL. But instead you want this to be natively integrated into your product and services. This is the way you to do it. So you go and create a knowledge base widget, and then we give you a piece of JavaScript, and then you take the JavaScript, you embed it in your application, and then the knowledge base widget actually appears. So here I'll just show you. I just copied the knowledge base widget here, and then I go and then I try to create in my own. So I have something called as an integration, where I have a custom HTML and then actually copy pasted here. I'm just going to turn it on. So the moment I turn it on, see what actually happens. So when I refresh, you can actually see the small icon appearing. So this is the knowledge base widget I was talking about. When I click on it, so it actually has all the knowledge base content. See, whatever you see here, this is actually available. So imagine this widget is available within your product. So this is amazing. Your customers can actually navigate and then find information, then solve the problem with themselves, which is fantastic. And then the cool nifty feature I want to show is this with extensions. So remember we talked about integrating this knowledge base with your customer support or help desk platform. We actually support a lot of help desk software at the moment. You can actually connect to any kind of fresh desk or fresh service kind of software using the token, and then you can actually pair them up basically. So which is the feature that comes out of the box in Document 360. And then we also provide features for your SEO, so that your the robots.txt is available for Google to come and index. We give all this fantastic stuff so that the information discovery happens on the web as well. And we also have ticket deflector, which I don't go into detail given the time constraints we have. And then we also support a mixed kind of mode where you can actually choose how your knowledge base um, actually function. So here, so you go into site access. At the moment, I set it as a public. You can actually set it as a mixed mode where you can have part of your knowledge base as public and part you have as a private, which needs a login to actually use your knowledge base. And we also provide rich analytics. Again, not relevant for some of the customer stories I want to share is there's a My Store, Panaya, and SafeBridge. They are the customers actually used Document 360 to actually reduce the support tickets. I just want to roll out a video so you can actually hear. This is from one of the customers who actually used Document 360 to reduce the support ticket. Let me roll that video.
We have seen a decrease of the number of calls to our support team, and so we have 15% less tickets than we had a year before. So I would say large part of this 15% less tickets is due to better documentation.
So that's brilliant. So here is you have a customer actually talking about 15% reduction in the support ticket because of having a better knowledge base.
We have
So let's look at some of the basic kind of an ROI if you have a knowledge base. So assume that most of you here have less than 500 tickets per week. So if you take a sample dollar value, so this is again coming from one of the research papers, they actually say that the average cost to serve a support is about $25. So if you look at approximately there's about 52 weeks, and then if you compute the cost, it's actually taking you close to $54,000 to serve all those tickets in total. If you are able to reduce 30% through self-service, I think that's a modest kind of a calculation. You're actually saving $16,000. So that is the money you can actually invest on the knowledge base for better documentation. Remember, it's not a one-time, it's a one-time investment, but actually has a long-term impact. So building a knowledge base is a more of a strategic exercise for any kind of a business to do in terms of saving costs. So here are the key takeaways. So if you want to reduce a support ticket, it's very essential that you build a knowledge base that actually um, um, helps your customers to self-serve. And then one other thing you need to do is to optimize the knowledge discovery of your entire knowledge base, be it in a search engine or inside the app. You have to make sure that the knowledge discovery happens very intuitively for your customers. And then you have to promote self-service. And a lot of times just about customer education. The moment you make the documentation available, or make it prominent inside the product or the services or wherever they visit some of your service centers, then they'll obviously get the education and then they try to self-serve. The most important thing is tracking business metrics and KPI. Absolutely essential for the customer support managers to justify the investment that's going in running the support center, and more importantly, helping the customers to actually self-serve. That's also very important. So focus on tracking those business metrics. Again, a lot of you actually mentioned in the survey that you do not have a sophisticated metric to measure the thing. Obviously, tracking whether the support ticket was not raised due to documentation is a very tricky problem. And what there are sophisticated tools available at the knowledge base solution providers, and also at the support ticket vendors, where you actually embed some of the JavaScript codes into your knowledge base, and it's able to track what actually happened inside the documentation and what the customer actually did inside the product. So you're able to cross correlate and then get the bit of an analytics on the self-service rate. In fact, there is plethora of metrics available inside in the web. One talking about self-service rate, and there are a lot of metrics to actually track how much of visitors you have, and then you also track about how many things have been accomplished using your documentation. There's a new paradigm called Docs as an observability platform, where you actually measure what your customers are able to accomplish using the documentation. So they're actually looking at the customer value. It's a lot more sophisticated in detail. Again, there's a lot of frameworks available. You can try them to track those business metrics and KPI to justify. Okay, and in the bottom line, if you want to reduce a customer support ticket, the cost-effective way, the affordable way to do so in addressing the majority of the repeatable questions and then enable customers to self-serve is to build a knowledge-based platform.
Thank you, Silva. And on behalf of the entire Document 360 team, I thank everyone who joined this session today. For
Thank
those who might want to revisit today's insight, the entire session has been recorded and will be soon available on our website along with the presentation text. So make sure to keep an eye out for the upload. So yeah, again, thank you all, and we'll be back with another session soon. And if you have any feedback, please feel free to reach out to our support team. We'll always be happy to help you out. And we wish you have all a wonderful day ahead. Thank you all.